Thank you everyone for being here and welcome to Improv for Enhancing Listening Skills. Today we're going to be going over a handful of games and exercises that focused on the listening element of improv. To introduce myself, my name is Barry Rosenblum. I'm a certified life coach, professional improviser, teacher, and director. I graduated from Barry University down in Miami with a master's degree in organizational leadership and learning. And I currently perform with Doghouse Theater in Delray Beach. And they currently put shows online every week, Friday and Saturday at 9 o'clock on the Doghouse Theater Facebook. And they also do a midnight show on Saturday. I'll make sure to give that information to Catherine so she can share it with all you. And if you're interested in me after this meeting, my website is rosenblumcoaching.com, which again, I'll make sure all of you have that information as well.
I'll send a follow-up email, which will include those links.
Perfect. So today, as I said, I'm going to introduce you to some improv philosophy and methodology with a focus on listening. And as I said, participation is encouraged but not required. So I'm pretty much going to hop right into the first exercise. I'll explain what the exercise is, how it's played, how it works. I'll ask who would like to play. And if there's any questions, feel free to just raise your hand. There should be a little raise your hand button in the chat box. And I'm sure Catherine can let me know if anyone has any questions. So,
and I'm starting you on mute. Sorry, Barry. But if you want to participate, go ahead and feel free to unmute yourself.
Perfect. So the first exercise that I'm going to have us get into is just a fun collaborative exercise called Sound Parade. The way Sound Parade works is that I will create a beat with my mouth resembling an instrument, I hope. I don't do the best instrument impressions, but I will try my best. And then everyone else, one by one, so just feel it out. If two people start at the same time, that's fine. We'll add their own instrument to where we're all creating a concerto together. So we're going to layer drums and saxophones and clarinets and whatever instrument you bring to the table. I think it's fun and physical if you use a physicality while you make said noise. So if you're doing the drums, my impressions are awful. So I'm sure some of you will smoke me in the musical instrument impression realm. But the way it works is just layering one on top of the other. The only other piece of this game and warm up is I might raise the volume. So if I do this, everyone gets louder. If I lower, everyone gets lower. Towards the end of the exercise, I tend to like to raise it up and cut it off short just to give it that big crash at the end. And while we're all playing this game, make sure that you're listening, because at certain points I will call out someone's name, such as Susie, and that will give Susie the chance to do either a solo of her instrument. So if it's a saxophone, you can really get into it. You can continue the beat that you're already doing. And then after, say, I call Susie out, I might say, everyone comes back in with their instrument and continues the beat. So this is about energy, listening, and also paying attention in case I lower or raise the volume. Before we get started, does anyone have any questions? Awesome, awesome. So I'm gonna start with a beat. I'll create whatever I create, and then one by one, without being called on, just include yourself into the music, and then from there I'll start directing. So I'll just start off with Louder. Louder. Shannon solo.
What?
Shannon solo. Everyone. Morton solo. Kid Hard solo. Karen solo. Everyone. Susie solo. A little bit louder. Anne solo. Oh, I don't know if Anne can hear. Angela, passing it to Angela for solo. And everyone back in. Raise it up, louder, louder, louder. And crescendo. And cut. Awesome, awesome. Very entertaining. I like everyone's instrument choices. I saw a flute. I really like the cymbals in there. We had drums in there. I really like this exercise just because, one, it gets us out of our heads immediately. We're not using words. We're not even really thinking. We're just creating noise. And through that, collaborating together. There's one exercise in improv that we're not going to do today, but I will explain it before we get into the next, is gibberish scenes. The idea of a gibberish scene in improv is that we're not even using real words to communicate. We're just using our emotion, our physical behavior, and really our presence to say what we're saying. So if you think about like how Charlie Brown hears adults speak, it's similar to that. I could talk wah, 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 or wah, 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 wah. And one gives off like more of a depressed energy, where if I'm just really lifting myself up and giving it that positive energy, it comes off happier. It's interpreted in a different perspective. So through listening, we're not only trying to hear what the person's saying, we're trying to feel and really see what the person's saying. A lot of times the words might be saying yes, but the head's going no. Little Billy, did you steal those cookies from the cookie jar? No. Well, he's shaking his head yes. So really it's about picking up on both the physicality and how someone's saying something. So I'm gonna have us hop into a handful of exercises that practice those things. But one exercise that I want, just so we all are introduced to each other, because I see a bunch of new faces and some old faces in here, is an exercise that I like to call name alliteration. The way this exercise works is it, personally for me, helps memory and remembering people's names. By giving a name an alliteration, and I like to throw a physicality in as well, it just jogs your memory 3 times in a row. So an example of this, my name is Barry. An alliterate word to my name would be a name that starts with B. So I like to say basketball Barry, or bongos Barry, or bird Barry. And adding this physicality, a word that's an alliteration of my name, and my name as well. Okay, say you forget my name's Barry. Oh, but it's bongos Barry. You remember bongos, you might have that physicality. Your brain has 3 different places where it can connect the dots to what my name is or another person's name is, and sort of enhances the listening by doubling down on it. So are there any questions before I have us start with this exercise? It's just a name alliteration. So your first name and a word that starts with the same letter either before or after your name. Any questions? Perfect. So I'm just going to go around the circle of people I see whose cameras are up, and I'm going to start with Karen. So Karen.
Crazy Karen.
I love it. And then after each person does theirs, everyone else in the chat or in the video, I want to repeat. So Karen, if you wouldn't mind doing yours one more time, and we will all repeat.
Crazy Karen.
Crazy Karen.
Crazy Karen.
Perfect. Morton, I'm passing over to you. Moody Morty. Moody Morty.
Morty.
Angela, you're next.
Angela.
Oh, I like that one. Angel
Angela.
Susie, I'm passing to you next.
Sweet Susie.
Sweet Susie.
Sweet Susie.
Next, I am passing to Anne. Anne.
Awesome Anne.
Oh, I love it. Awesome.
Awesome Anne.
All right, Siddharth, I'm passing to you.
Superb Siddharth.
Oh, I love it. Super, Siddharth.
Siddharth.
All right, Shannon, you are next.
Sweet Shannon.
Oh, I love it.
Shannon.
Sweet Shannon. Catherine.
Catherine Kangaroo.
Oh, I love it.
Catherine Kangaroo.
And then Maura and Michael, I just saw you guys join. So if you'd like to be involved in this exercise, it's just your name with a word and a physicality that's an alliteration of it. So just to re-explain mine, Bongos Barry, Sweet Susie. So Maura, I'm passing to you.
Yeah. So my name is Maura Merkel, and it's like miracle. Maura Miracle.
Oh, I love it. So Maura Miracle.
Yeah, Maura Miracle. Or Miracle. That's. But I can't think of anything physicality or get the. Oh, there's the video. I can't think of anything like that.
I almost feel like the camera shake. my work
well,
is the
try to
thing.
get it. Yeah.
I like a miracle, Miracle.
Miracle, miracle.
And then Michael, I think you're muted, but passing it to you, Michael.
What do I have to do again?
Just your name with an alliterative word. So magical Michael, any M word that goes with your name and a physicality for it. We're putting you on the spot.
Mary Michael.
I'm not Michael Happy. I don't know.
Michael McHappy.
Yeah, yeah.
So Michael McHappy.
Michael McHappy.
Yeah, I like that. It's funny. So with this, the physicality does help, as I was explaining. And to sort of add the next layer of this game, we are virtual. It is a little difficult to remember everyone's, but does anyone, just by a show of their hand, remember anyone else's? Just one person. Does anyone remember anyone else's? Oh, perfect. Awesome. Siddharth, who do you remember?
Moody Morty.
Angela, who do you remember?
Awesome Anne.
Yeah.
Perfect. Catherine, I saw you raise your hand as well.
Sweet Susie.
And Susie, I saw you raise your hand as well.
Crazy Karen. Love that.
Awesome. I love it. So we have a good amount of memory going on. Now we're going to add the game element to this exercise. The game element is that you will say yours. So for example, I might do Bongos Barry, and then I'm going to pass it to someone by saying theirs. So I would say, I believe it was Super Siddharth. So I would do mine, say Siddharth's, and do his. Then Siddharth, you would do yours and pass it to the next person. And then that person will do theirs and pass it to the next person. Before we start with this, any questions? Perfect. And if you forget someone's, feel free to ask. Improv is great in the sense that if we make mistakes, we laugh at them. Mistakes are where you find the funny moments in improv. Without mistakes, it's just a normal day happening. Once the mistakes happen, that's where we can find some humor. So Siddharth, you seem ready to go with mine, so I'm going to pass it to you. So bongos, Barry, super Siddharth.
Super Siddharth, Catherine Kangaroo.
Awesome Anne.
Awesome and crazy Karen.
Crazy Karen McHappy Michael.
McHappy Michael. I wasn't here for everyone's name, so I don't know.
Pick someone and they can show you theirs again. That's a great way to keep it rolling.
Morton.
Moody Morty.
Moody and Morty.
All right, Morty, pass it on.
Sweet Susan.
Sweet Susie. Angelic Angela.
Angel Angela Bongo Barry.
Bongo Barry, Crazy Karen.
Crazy Karen. Awesome Anne.
Awesome and Catherine Kangaroo.
Catherine Kangaroo. Miracle Merkel.
And Miracle Merkel, Sweet Shannon.
Wow.
Sweet Shannon. Oh my gosh. Crazy Barry?
You're close. You're close. Bongos Barry.
Bongos Barry, sorry.
I love it. And I think that was everyone. So now I get to ask the final challenge. The final challenge is, does anyone think that they can do everyone's?
Wow.
Would anyone like to try? All right, I'm gonna pass it to Siddharth and go through them.
Okay. So Bongo Barry, Crazy Karen, Sweet Susie, Moody Martin, Angel Angela, Awesome Anne, Catherine Kangaroo, Michael McHappy, and Miracle.
Yeah, nice. That deserves a round of applause. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. So with that, I'll ask if there's any questions, comments, or thoughts. But with that, that's really just to reinforce memory and make the listening more than someone's name. It's just adding a couple things, sort of like, I don't know if when you were all kids, you learned the states and capitals with a song. But I feel like the best way to remember is put some rhyme or reason behind what we're learning. So any thoughts, comments, or questions before we move forward?
I think that's, I think it's great because I think a lot of us, for me, have a harder time remembering names, and I love the little, nickname with it. It really made it surprisingly much easier to remember. Otherwise, no one would ever be able to go around the table and remember everybody's name. Anyway, that's all.
Great, awesome. Any other thoughts or comments before we continue? Susie.
Barry, that really worked. Wow.
Thank you.
What I found fascinating is I thought of 3 words before Susie, and I thought, pick one. And I'm actually 5 feet tall, guys. And so I first thought of short Susie. And I said, no, that doesn't define me. And then I thought of a very dear friend of mine calls me Superstar Susie. And I thought that's too much. And then I did the Goldilocks thing with Sweet Susie. So I just sharing the experience. That's all. But it really does helps.
Yeah, that's why I never come in and say I'm boozy, Barry. If I'm bongos are relaxing, bass guitar's pretty good, basketball works. If I go regional, I could be Brooklyn, Barry, but now I'm in Jupiter, Florida. But awesome.
Bronx Barry. Barry, you can be Bronx Barry.
So were there any other questions or comments? Perfect. Awesome. So I'm going to keep us moving forward. And the next exercise, I'll say that improv works best when the improvisers are listening and responding to each other rather than trying to come up with what's funny. So when we do scene work, we're really just trying to actively listen to what the other person says rather than planning the next line of dialogue. If we're planning what we're going to say to the other person, it sort of distracts us from listening to what the other person's saying. There's actually a quote that I really like by the author of 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And his quote is, "Most people do not listen with the intent of understanding. They listen with the intent of replying." So if you think about that, it's almost like as soon as we feel that we've heard enough information from the other person, our listening turns off and we go into that response mode. We start to think, okay, what am I going to say? What am I going to say? And in improv, again, I'll say if we're thinking too deeply about what we're going to say, we're going to miss the moment when our scene partner gave us that golden nugget of information that makes the scene that much easier. So the next exercise that I'm going to do is it's just going to be 2 people at a time. So I'll just have people raise their hand or put in the chat that they'd like to be first, whoever I see first. We'll do a few rounds of this. But the way this exercise works is it's just responding to what the other person said. I usually just call this exercise repeat what you heard, but it's a little bit more than that. It's more reiteration of what you've heard. So an example I like to give to explain how it works is if I come into a scene and say to my scene partner, "It's a real sunny day out today." It's not that interesting of a line of dialogue. It's not the funniest line of dialogue, but all my scene partner needs to do, utilizing this exercise and listening, is repeat what I said and add a little bit of information. "It's a real sunny day outside today." "It is a sunny day outside today. We should go surfing." The other person listening back, I said it's sunny. He added surfing. I should comment on surfing using their line of dialogue. "Surfing is a great idea. Oh, do you think the waves are going to be big?" Not thinking, just using what the other person said. The last thing he said is waves, asking if the waves are going to be big. "The waves are going to be huge." Just reiterating, rephrasing the information. Almost similar to when someone asks, "Am I hearing this correctly? Am I hearing that you said X, Y, Z?" This is taking that and just using the other person's words to further the conversation or the dialogue. Prior to getting started in this exercise, I'll also say that agreement or a yes and mentality will definitely help. In improv, the biggest thing that teachers will usually say is that you want to agree to the information and move forward as if that information is true. Usually agreement leads to figuring out what's going on faster. If I enter a scene and say that we're at the bank and you say we're not at the bank, we're at the grocery store, now we need to figure out where we are. Oh no, it just got difficult. Are we at the bank or the grocery store? I mean, you can justify the reality and there can be a bank at the grocery store, but then we're getting a little wild a little quickly. It's better to build from a place of reality, at least for improv purposes, before you blow the reality out of proportion. So just to reinstate, this exercise, one person is going to say any line of dialogue at all. The other person is going to respond by taking what they said, pretty much flipping it back around. "It's sunny outside today." "It is sunny outside today." And then adding their information. We'll bounce back and forth maybe 5-7 times and then I'll just call scene. But it's really just to double process what the other person said. Not only are you hearing them say it, you're repeating it back to them, and then they're once again agreeing to what was said by you and moving the information forward. So before we get started, are there any questions? Beautiful. Just by a show of hands, who would like to volunteer? All right, perfect. I see Karen and Angela up first. Can you each see each other?
Yes.
Perfect, awesome. So I'll give you
Yeah.
a word to get started with, but then just any sentence. Karen, I'm gonna have you say the first thing. Angela, you're gonna repeat and respond, and then just back and forth. So Karen, the suggestion to inspire your little conversation is campfire. Campfire.
This campfire is the best time I have ever had.
This campfire is the best I ever had. I'm toasting marshmallows and they're coming just perfect.
But the bear behind you at this campfire is coming at us.
I love it. Freeze for a moment. Karen, I love it so much because you just added so much excitement to the scene. Just make sure you add that little detail about the marshmallows that Angela said to you. So making sure that you heard what Angela said, and then definitely add that bear information. That's great. So Angela, I'm just gonna have you repeat your line of dialogue and move forward from there.
Campfire is great. I'm toasting marshmallows and they're coming perfect.
It's great, those marshmallows that you have, but I think the bear that's coming is going to eat them.
The bear that's coming is gonna eat my marshmallows. Oh my gosh, I better run. There's food left out and he's gonna get that too.
Know something? Maybe we should both run to the other campfire where there's no bears.
Running to the other campfire where there's no bears. I don't think I can move. I'm too scared.
Awesome, awesome. Scene. So great. Yeah. Just taking those last little bits of dialogue and using it to push the conversation further. I love that as soon as you added the marshmallow and the bear together, the fear of the food getting eaten and the campfire having food in it, it starts to get painted for us. I mean, I feel that when a scene is working successfully, I see the two people in the environment. We know that that bear is coming, and we know that this campfire probably has the food everywhere. Like, I'm just imagining a picnic that they are not going to clean up in time. But excellent work. I'm gonna have us run through a few more rounds of this and go a little bit longer. I might interrupt to just give a note to make sure you guys are listening back to each other. But do I have two more volunteers, just by a raise of hands? All right, I saw Michael and Shannon go up first. So Michael, you are gonna start, and Shannon, you will respond. The suggestion for you both to get started is going to be waiting room. Waiting room.
This waiting room in the doctor's office is taking too long.
Wow, this waiting room in the doctor's office is really taking a long time. I hope that the receptionist would return to the front desk and check on us.
I hope that the receptionist comes and checks on us before I eat my lunch.
Yeah, before you eat your lunch, it would be great if the doctor would come out. Maybe he's eating lunch.
Maybe the doctor is eating his lunch. Maybe we can eat lunch together.
Maybe the doctor's eating his lunch. And maybe the doctor's eating his lunch because that sandwich you're eating looks so awesome and he got the idea from you.
The doctor is eating his lunch and that sandwich got the idea from me.
Michael, I love where you're at. How do you feel about the doctor getting that idea from you?
I feel quite happy about that he got the idea from me.
I love it. I love it. Scene. Perfect. So right there, yeah, just that collaboration until you figure out what's going on. We have two people in a waiting room. In improv, we start to want to learn who, what, where. We had our location. We have two people waiting. We don't know what you're waiting for yet, but we know that if you have to wait any longer, lunch is happening. And that's enough information to continue your scene forward. And the thing I like about this exercise is it keeps the information so tight. A lot of times in improv scenes, as well as day-to-day conversations, we can just stack details on top of details on top of details. I like to make a list of what I need to do for the day. And I find if there's 50 things on the list, not even one's gonna get done. It's too much. Too much is going on. It's too overwhelming. But by having a list of 3, 5 things that I need to do, one by one, I can check them off. And relating it to improv, we only had 1 or 2 things going on in both of these last scenes. We can slowly layer the details in. Maybe we find out why one of you is there. We can explore that for a little while, switch back and explore why the other person's there. But without adding crazy information, you have a nice scene that's just flowing, you're listening to each other, and the information is staying very tight. So we'll do a few more. Who else would like to volunteer? Morton and one other, and people can go twice if they'd like. And Susie, awesome, Susie and Morton. So Morton, I'm gonna have you start, and the suggestion to get you started is going to be, let's see, I'll give you college.
Who starts?
Morton.
Right? Okay. Going to Harvard is one of the most boring things a person can do in his life, except for sitting on the toilet.
Yes, Morton. Going to Harvard may be as exciting as sitting on the toilet, but I would have loved to have sat on that toilet.
Yes, not only is the toilet lovely, it's golden and made of gold.
Oh, I have a lot to say about that.
So, Susie, I love it. So just with the information, you know that he said it's a golden toilet. So just using that to move the information further. How do you feel? What do you think about it being a golden toilet?
Well, how privileged you are to have the ability to sit on a throne. That is just, there are not many people that have that opportunity. So that toilet is actually a treasure.
Not only is it a treasure, yes, but it's my kingdom. And I can read the paper too.
Ooh, I love this. And Susie, I'm only interrupting you because I love what Morton gave you. He related it to a kingdom. So just, this is where in an improvised scene, you can add character elements. Is this, are we living in a kingdom type environment? Is there any details that you can add to there? And really take it where you'd like, but he did just refer to the toilet as his kingdom.
What a kingdom and such privacy you have. But how do you rule from that kingdom if you're all alone on the throne in there?
Well, I set laws with checks and balances, just like in America, Congress sets the laws with checks and balances.
All right, scene. Awesome, okay. Awesome. And even towards the end there, I really like how you were able to bounce back and forth. And it's one of those things where you guys got to the point in there where Morton, even in that last line of dialogue, you weren't repeating exactly what was said, but you were responding directly to it. And I started to see just, you're processing. She asked me the question, I'm responding directly to it and moving it forward. So just the idea with this is that not in a regular conversation do you have to say what the other person is saying verbatim, but by just taking those little bits of details and actually showing that you're processing what the other person says, it lets your brain digest the words. If someone asks me, do you want to go to this movies this Sunday? I can just take a moment, like, do I want to go? I don't have to answer on the spot. Just process what they say, think about it, respond to it directly. Karen, I saw you raise your hand.
I wanted to ask a question. I thought Susie was listening and that worked well, but I just, for the question's sake, I wonder if it would be even better if you bring the college, the college part into it, because it seems like we kind of forgot about that. And I just wonder, is that okay?
Oh, I love that question. That's an excellent question. With the word of inspiration, it can be directly about that thing, or it can be light years away from it and just be the thing that you thought of. One of the examples I like to give is like fishing. If I gave the example of fishing, it doesn't mean that we have to be physically fishing. We could be in a kitchen, we could be at the park, and fishing could never come up. But just using that first word to inspire anything. In a lot of improvised pieces that are performed on stage, the audience will give a suggestion when we ask. We'll go, can we get a suggestion of a word, a phrase, anything? And usually we'll take a second, and you can either go directly to the word, or you can word associate away from it. And we call it A to C'ing. If you gave me the word fishing, fishing makes me think of boats. Boats make me think of wood. I could start a scene based on the word wood just because I'm connecting my thinking to the original word of fishing. So, I mean, what I'll say is, if you were doing something like this on stage, it depends how long you're playing for. If you were doing a 2 to 3 minute scene, you might want to hit the word right in the head. If you were doing a 30-minute piece, you might want to wait 10 minutes. Start in one direction. Then when you get to that 10-minute, 15-minute mark, you bring back that word the audience said, and they're like, oh, they remembered and they brought it back and it fits so nicely. There's a piece that we'll do in shows where we'll ask for 6 or 7 suggestions. And I found over time that by layering where you ask for these things, you can get jokes out of nowhere. So if we have 5 improvisers on stage, one might ask, can I just get an object? Maybe I get vase. Can I get an emotion, anger? Can I get a relationship between 2 people, cousins? And then you make it where like the 5th one or the 4th one is a joke that's already set up. Can I get a line of dialogue? You get a line of dialogue from the audience and use it with your 5th person in the show, 15, 20 minutes into the show. That line of dialogue comes out, and no matter how funny or non-funny, everyone's memory is triggered. We're all on the same page. We all remember that the person in the audience said that thing, and it usually will get a laugh. I mean, nothing in improv is 100%, but there's structures that we put in place to try to hit humor at certain moments. But I love that question. I feel like I am able to talk about it all day long. But are there any other questions before we continue?
What did you call the technique? You called it what to what?
A to C'ing. Or it's similar to word association, but you almost add another step. And in exercise, there's an exercise that we won't do today, but I'll explain it quickly. We'll just say blank makes me think about blank, and that blank makes me think about this blank. So if it's potato chips make me think about potatoes, and potatoes make me think about the Irish, now I've gone from potato chips, which maybe we could be eating junk food in a scene, to a scene where I can put on an Irish accent. So it's like, just by connecting the dots, it really gives you a lot of room to play. Any other questions before we move forward? Cool, awesome. So, any comments or anything also? I like to ask questions, but also any comments or thoughts.
Morton wrote in the chat. So Morton, should we call you Andrew, not Morton?
If you want, if it gets too confusing, I'll stick with Morton. I mean, it's okay.
Improvising for me.
Perfect. All right. So the next exercise that I'm going to have us get into, again, is focusing on listening, as all of these are, but they all have different methods within listening, such as memory and word tricks. This one is very heavy on the listening side, though, straight listening. It is one word story. And the way it works is that we'll all be creating a story one word at a time. And the story can get very complex very quickly if we're not listening and trying to make the story make sense. This is where, again, we're not trying to be funny. We're just trying to hear what was said to us and move the thought forward. So this is a pretty easy to do exercise where I'll start by giving a prompt of a sentence, and then I'll give people an order to go in. So just try to remember the person before you to keep the flow going. But I'll just have you count off so you know what your order is. Karen, you're going to be number 1 after I introduce it. Morton or Andrew, you're going to be number 2. So after Karen says her word, be listening, but be ready to continue the story with one word. Angela, it will then go to you. Susie, you will be after Angela. Siddharth, you will be after Susie, followed by Catherine, Michael, Shannon, then back to myself, and then Karen again, and we'll continue from there. When it comes back to me, I may say a few words. I sort of push the story to an ending at a certain point. But the biggest thing here is truly be listening to the person before you and really just try to make the story make sense. If you were saying a simple sentence, I'll just use "it's sunny outside" again today. But if I said "it" and someone said "Houston," Houston doesn't really work as a sentence. We're going to fish food. It might be silly, but it really makes the sentence not work and the story connect. So if your word is just "to," if your word is "the," that totally helps the story. And if you feel that after your word the sentence is over, feel free to say period. If you're saying "it's sunny outside today," period, you can give someone the opportunity to start a new sentence. Any questions before we jump in? Cool. So I will start, and the order, just to repeat, is Karen, Morton, Angela, Susie, Siddharth, Catherine, Michael, and Shannon. So I will begin with "once upon a time."
There
Was black.
Just one word.
Oh. Thin.
What's that, Morton?
Thin.
They're thin?
Yeah. Thin.
Air thin, black.
you said was.
I'm a little confused. Can you, once upon a time?
I think our audio cut out on a few words. We'll try this one more time, and if not, I'll revise it. It's improv, so we can always float on the go. But Karen, can you repeat your word? And just to make it a little crisper, if you guys wouldn't mind just leaning in when you speak.
Should I change it and give you a different word?
Yeah, sure. We'll just start from the top. So, and so it's just one word at a time, but I'll start the story. So once upon a time.
The president.
Oh, so the
lobster.
Had.
I didn't hear the word. I'm sorry.
Had.
Oh, hat. A.
Dream. Period. Dream.
I didn't hear it. I'm sorry. Oh,
dream. Dream.
About.
Oh, Michael, you're muted.
A.
Wow. Okay, make sure I've got the words right. Once upon a time, there was a lobster who had a dream about a fish.
And.
The.
Pimple.
The what?
Pimple.
Pimple.
The pimple on
His claw.
So his.
Oh, his.
Forehead.
what is it?
Which.
Oh. Mm.
Had.
A.
Hat. We'll cut there. It's a little difficult with how our audio is coming in. It's funny, this exercise online, it all is dependent on how well our microphones are working. But just to sort of explain how that works, we did get through it a little bit. The idea of it is really just that hyper listening to try to make what the other person is saying make sense. So even in the little bit we had a lobster that was dealing with the fish. Like, it makes sense. It's just that thing of, we're not trying to push our own agenda in this almost. We're just trying to make it work. So with this, it's really a collaborative exercise. And again, I'd love to have it function with everyone working and being able to hear. But we'll go into something that's a little bit similar to that so that we can continue. And the exercise I'm going to have us hop into just from there, and to sort of close out our workshop, since we only have 10 minutes left, is emotional reaction with listening. So this one is a fun one. And this one is all about putting whatever emotion you want into the response. It's really to see that it doesn't matter what we say, it's how we say it. And the fact that we're going to have, 8 different people saying a different thing in their own way will really show how this works. So what I will do is I will give a line of dialogue for a person to respond to. As soon as that person responds, everyone else one by one will respond in the same way, but a different emotional choice. So for example, if I was to ask Catherine, do you want to go to the movies later today? Whether she says yes or no, she'll say it how she's going to say, yes, I'd love to go to the movies. I hear Spider-Man's playing. Catherine will say that. Everyone else will say the same thing, but either with yes or no and their own emotion behind it. So you're still agreeing to the prompt I give you, but responding with a different emotional reaction. Any questions before we jump in? Okay, so I'll just call people out to keep it a little easier than going in order. I feel like it's easier if I call people. So let's see. I'll start with Catherine. And Catherine, the prompt I'm going to give you is, should we get a new couch?
I was thinking we should get a blue couch.
Oh, did you freeze? Oh, there you are.
Let's get a blue couch.
Perfect. So using that blue couch, I'm going to have everyone respond in a different emotion. So Angela, should we get a new couch?
I was thinking of getting a blue couch.
Karen, should we get a new couch?
I was thinking of getting a blue couch.
Hey, Morton, should we get a new couch?
Yeah, man, why not? Let's get a blue couch, baby.
Susie, should we get a new couch?
Yes, new couch, new couch. But
Shannon,
8.
should we get a new couch?
A new blue couch?
Sidhard, should we get a new couch?
Yes. We should get a blue couch.
Hey, Michael, should we get a new couch?
Yes, we should get a blue couch.
And Mara, what do you think? Should we get a new blue couch? Oh, you're on mute. It's funny. No response works as well. Silence is power. You know. It's funny. That's a whole nother workshop about pausing and all of that. But just in that nothing initiation, I always like to do scenes that I'm not trying to make the funny come from, because each and every one of you gave a response that really allows me to go in any direction I choose with the limited information we have. For example, Sidhard, when you came in, oh man, immediately my character is feeling, are we doing this secretively? Is this like, it felt like an element of mystery to it. Immediately, even the leaning in, I interpret the body language and my brain says, oh, we don't want the other roommates to know. We don't want them to have any idea. Whereas Susie, you're all positive. I'm thinking with you, I'm like, oh, you're saying yes to the new couch? I'm gonna push more than that. You know what, we should redo the whole house. Chairs, beds, everything. And really just based on the reaction that's given to me, it really guides where my character can go and where the other character can go when we're in an improvised scene. As we talked about a little bit earlier, yes-anding is really just agreeing to the information. A lot of times when yes and is taught, it will be taught in a way that you agree just to what's given to you. You agree that it's real, but it doesn't mean that you have to like it. If I tell you that we're at the doctor's office, you can just as easily respond, I don't like the doctor's office. It makes me nervous. Whereas yes, and you might say, yes, we're at the doctor's office and we're here for a checkup. We're still agreeing in both ways, whether I'm nervous, no, we can't be at the doctor's office, I'm afraid of shots. I'm still agreeing while saying no because I'm agreeing to the reality of the situation. With how we respond to the dialogue that's given to us tells us a lot about the situation we're in. You know, a lot of times if it's physicality, it can sort of create a power dynamic. If someone's talking a little bit more broad or a little bit more slouched, leading with different parts of the body also communicates a lot. If we're doing this with our hands when we're talking, and if I was doing the whole workshop talking like this, and I was looking around and I was, you know, just touching being a weirdo, well, maybe not a weirdo, but if I was just being extremely uncomfortable and not looking at the camera at all, you would definitely interpret my presence differently than even right now. If I was sitting a little bit higher, or even gave myself a more powerful angle. In film, they shoot things differently to show characters in places of power. Quentin Tarantino would do this a lot, like the trunk scenes where you see the people looking at the body in the trunk or anything like that. That's a little sidetracking, but just using how you respond to something to guide where the conversation is going. And with that, as we sort of wrap up, listening is one thing, but the other side of listening is responding. And based on how we respond to the people that are communicating with us on a day-to-day basis, or even just in public, you know, whether you're at the grocery store, wherever, your response can really dictate how the other person responds to you. I mean, we've all had good days, we've all had bad days, but I find if you try to approach people in a positive light, put a smile on your face, try to consider how the other person is feeling, try to sort of gauge their emotion and where they're coming from, it makes transactions with friends, family, whoever you're dealing with, just that much easier. And I feel that by listening to what the other person is saying, both with their physicality and their words, can really just make working with anyone a lot easier. If I come into a situation with a hostile behavior, come in like Debbie Downer. I don't know if you guys like Saturday Night Live, but Debbie Downer is one of my favorite sketches because it just shows how someone can bring the energy down so quickly by saying that thing that's like, oh no, I don't want to hear about that. When in reality, we can respond however we want. You can be happy, you can be sad. It's all, in my perspective, it's all a choice. We all have our emotions and we channel them how we'd like. But when we're communicating with other people, by slowing down a little bit, by listening, by looking for social cues, just taking that breath can really just ease the tension and make it easier to communicate. I don't want to hold anyone longer than 2 o'clock. So with the minute we have left, I'll ask, are there any questions, comments, or any other thoughts? Awesome. Cool. Well,
positive feedback in the chat. Everyone's really thankful to you, Barry, and have enjoyed the workshop today. So thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you all for being here. I couldn't host it without people interacting with it. If it was sketch, I could sit here and just draw by myself, but improv looks pretty interesting when you're doing it on a camera to no one. So thank you all for being here. I love doing this with everyone. And again, rosenblumcoaching.com if you want to see anything that I'm doing. Doghouse Theater puts on 3 free shows a week online currently. And once the world changes a little bit, hopefully we'll be back in the theater. But 9 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays at Doghouse Theater Facebook. And also midnight on Saturdays. I'm usually asleep by then, but I'm in a lot of the 9 o'clock ones. So feel free to come and check them out. But again, thank you everyone. And feel free to email me. I'm pretty quick with answering.
Okay.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us. I did put the link to our wellness workshops in the chat. It's a little bit further back. I just put it again. But please join us on Friday afternoons for a little bit of afternoon relaxation.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barry.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Catherine.
Thank you.